Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I wanted to talk about VTOL, Vertical Takeoff and Landing, as part of the new hover mode that's coming in Alpha 3.6 and is an extension of the new flight model. In Inside Star Citizen, they showed off some of the early stage of the new VTOL and hover mode that will have ships acting more like helicopters when active. However, there have been many updates since that was filmed, and I thought I'd put this all together here so we sort of have a all we know on what we know about the new VTOL and hover mode. Hover mode is now completely automatic. Previously, it was planned to have a toggle button as well, so you could turn it on and off at will. This no longer, at least at the moment, looks to be the case though. It comes on when you fly under a certain speed. So once you're below a certain speed, you're in hover mode. And it turns off when you're above a certain speed. So you will literally go back into your normal flight. It only operates in areas where there is gravity, so planets, moons, landing pads. When in hover mode, tilting forward will move you forward as all your thrust is being aimed down. Tilting backward will slow and stop you or even push you backwards. Obviously, if you're angling backwards, then your thrust is pointing slightly forwards, so you will be going backwards. Holding W for long enough or otherwise building up enough speed by flying forward will switch you out of hover mode and into normal flight mode, as mentioned earlier. The speed threshold for this is unique to each ship, rather than a global value that you just have to sort of like get up to. The transition between normal and hover mode can be abrupt at certain speeds, as defined per ship. The transition in and transition out velocities are different though, preventing you from rapidly changing between normal and hover mode if you're sort of like on a borderline speed, which you don't have because they're different values. Hover mode is a bit of a mix of decoupled and normal flight mode. There is no decoupled toggle in hover mode either. It's just sort of like one hover mode once you're in hover mode. It does have you sort of like floating and drifting, so if you strafe left and right, you have to counter it yourself to stop. They did take some of the coupled behavior away for hover mode to work. Certain ships have the ability to rotate their VTOL thrusters so they can tilt the ship forward and not drift. The Prospector being the prime example here. It can face down about 10 degrees without moving forward, and is especially important in regard to gimbaling a weapon mount or mining laser and using that while in hover mode. The ship still rotates when you're aiming beyond a certain angular range. This is especially noticeable if you have a mouse controlling orientation as well as aiming. They do allow you to strafe back, forward, left and right with normal strafe controls. They were going to minimize some of the functionality of that, but they decided to open it up so you can face down even more and strafe backwards to try and balance yourself out without falling forward. There looks to be quite a bit of a learning curve and quite a good skill ceiling for using this mode particularly effectively. However, there's a lot of stuff so that there's quite a strong skill floor as well, so people can be reasonably good at flying their ships without having to worry too much. So they've implemented things like a auto hover mechanic that's bound to space brake. If you hold space brake, the ship will arrest any sliding and sit in a stable hover. While this is on, you can freely rotate your gimbals to face down at surface targets, so you can turn on the space brake and then gimbal your mining laser to a rock and mine without any issue. Auto hover takes away your pitch and roll inputs and tries to force the ship to be level where possible. There is a certain amount of random oscillation in ship's thrusters in hover mode as well, so they will sort of like see the ship bob and move around a bit more realistically, but obviously you are actually bobbing and moving around a bit, so bear that in mind. 3.6 allows you to control all the thruster power at once with an axis keybind or 2 buttons. If you are actively flying around a planet and you slow down to do a turn, or you slow down very briefly, you're not going to instantly go into hover mode, so don't worry about that. You'll still be able to execute maneuvers. The system's not going to just go, no, you're now you're in hover mode as you started that turn, and now you're basically stopping and not flying forward. So that they've got that in mind already. They aren't going to punish you for trying to do maneuvers. While in hover mode, some ships can roll 360 degrees. However, you will likely lose control and crash, as most of your thrust is trying to aim downwards or below the ship, I suppose. So flipping over may just result in you hitting the ground. There is no hover mode where there's no gravity, so you not see it in space unless you're in a hangar or on a landing pad. Other than the previously mentioned exceptions, hover mode is always on below a certain speed while in an area with gravity. Adjusting power to your thrusters will affect your VTOL engines, obviously, and that can make your ship fall, for example, or give you much more effective thrust if you overpower them. Dedicated VTOL thrusters allow ships to have more acceleration to hold themselves up and are less likely to overheat, etc. They have some bonuses effectively for flying around on planets and surfaces and atmospheres. Some ships, like the Reclaimer, need VTOL thrusters to even stay afloat in some of the lower gravity environments. There is no hover decoupled mode, since hover mode already exhibits similar behavior to decoupled mode. As I said earlier, decoupled is only available in normal flight. 3.6 will have no automatic gravity compensation in normal flight mode, so transitioning from sort of like hover mode to normal flight mode, you won't get that gravity compensation, nor will you when you're flying around an atmosphere. The flight model and hover mode will continue to evolve, and 3.6 will see the first iteration of hover, but this is certainly not its final form, and we will continue to see atmospheric flight evolve as well. I was personally in two minds when I first saw the hover mode. It's quite different from what I expected and what we've had before. However, it's growing on me. I like the idea that ships oscillate and bob a little bit while hovering. The system seems to give ships a more believable mass in atmosphere, at least on paper. You are no longer hovering just like you are in space, but you're either flying around a planet in the sort of like atmospheric flight mode, or you're using VTOLs to hover. You're not just like, I'm a spaceship, I can hover at all angles all the time, lol lol lol. I want to see how large ships handle the hover mode, and how hard it is for you to get like a Reclaimer out of atmosphere from Hurston, for example. Another couple of things that are sort of mentioned, and I've seen rumours and devs talk about as well, is that VTOL thrusters basically generate a good amount of heat, and eventually will be very fuel hungry. There is a component heat propagation system at the moment, so hot components will heat others up. Bear that in mind when managing your systems. That's going to help with that sort of like heat building if you're flying an atmosphere for long periods of time for some reason. Also, this means that I suspect prospectors will land sometimes to mine, or at least more often. But what do you think? Do you like the sound of hover mode? Do you think it will improve the flight model? Do you think we'll see lots of prospectors using hover mode a lot, or will they just land much more often now? Do you think this adds something to the game, or just adds further complexity where it's not required? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For June, we have an Origin 890 Jump, the massive luxury ship that should also be flyable with Alpha 3.6 at the end of the month. That is a huge sort of like capital luxury ship. It's been donated by Odyssey Interstellar, a friendly industrial expansionist organization in Star Citizen that focus on mining, trading, industry, exploration, research, and infrastructure. In short, commerce is their goal. They run regular weekly events in-game now. Please check them out if you are looking for an org to join. Links down below. There are a couple of services I shield for as well that you might find useful. If you're looking for a VPN, then check out NordVPN. I use it for security, privacy, and more. It has massive advantages over free VPNs. And if you use the code BoredGamer, you get up to 75% off your subscription. Boom! Also, there is Shadow Cloud Gaming. This is an alternative to having your own or upgrading your gaming rig on PC. It leverages the power of the internet and your own Shadow server that emulates a high-spec Windows 10 PC, so you can play up to 144Hz 4K anywhere with an old PC, laptop, smartphone, or even tablet. Freedom to play anywhere. The internet is good enough anyway, and it works really well with Star Citizen and all the games that I play, and is constantly updated and even improved with new hardware. Again, use the code BoredGamer for discount. Links below to all of that jazz. Thank you to all that support the channel through Patreon, the YouTube join button, donations, subscribe star, as well as anyone that just generally subscribes, likes, comments, and shares my content. Dings that bell, ding ding. If you feel so inclined, you can find links to all of that down below. A special thank you though to my VIP producers this month: Dalamars, Catastrus, Raz, Gear Khan, General Aventador, Robert Johnson, and Andy Green, who have given well beyond the norm in support for the channel. I know a load of other people have, but I can't name them all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.